closely were you watching the ECB last night and their decision? I mean, how much impact will that actually make for us?
Yeah, I think it would have been a big impact if they had surprised us with a hawkish tone. My expectation was that given inflation has been so well behaved, and there's no sign of inflation really going through their 2% target. They've not even been at the 2% target for the longest time. That there was very little chance, in my opinion, that they would give a hawkish kind of view on interest rates. They didn't, so markets are relaxed. In fact, markets are surprised by how dovish they've been.
Yeah, I mean, I was surprised to see the strength of reaction in the euro.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is that Mario Draghi has been quite clever. I think he's given a one-year view. It's not just next 3 months. He's given till September next year. Don't expect us to be doing something aggressive. And that's enough for the markets to take away something from. And it's dovish relative to what expectations were. With the Fed behaving, in the US behaving slightly differently, they're saying we need to do a hike, possibly. We think employment numbers are eventually going to lead to something on the inflation front, and therefore we need to be ready for it when you start moving now. That's a slightly different stance from the ECB, which is saying no sign of inflation. Inflation is our key goal, and therefore we can afford to wait.
Do you believe that these central banks, whether it be the Fed or Europe or elsewhere, that have such a strong focus on inflation are actually doing the wrong thing in the longer term by not paying more attention to asset price inflation?
That's such an interesting question, and we'll be seeing a lot of textbooks and white papers and written on this over the next 10, 20 years. I mean, we're in very unusual territory. The size of the intervention, the extent of leverage is unprecedented. We haven't seen this ever in the history of recorded history, economic history of mankind. So it's hard to say because we just don't know. We've never been here. Historically, and it's a slightly different context, it's always ended badly. Either through inflation or through war or some other mechanism to clear the market. Don't expect any of that. All we might just get this time, hopefully if you're lucky, is slower growth for an extended period of time. You have to remember that any debt is borrowing from the future. So if you have a lot of debt, you borrowed a lot from the future, and therefore you've got to pay back.
Yep.
And if you're going to pay back without a crisis, it just means an extended period of low growth.
But growth, nonetheless, just slower than...
Yeah. Instead of 3%, you might get 2.5% global growth. And that's not a disaster, assuming it's well managed from here onwards. But the tendency of central banks and governments has been to fight any downturn with more. And sometimes maybe we don't need to do that much.